It's been a long week. For so many reasons, my creativity and the command of the English language has not been good this week. And every time I tried to write a sermon, I just kept sitting and staring at a blinking cursor on a blank white page. I never wait till the last minute to do anything. I start packing my kids for camp about a month before they leave, so I can do it slowly and make sure I check off all the boxes. I plan the next vacation before I even leave for the first vacation. I am the person that signs my kids up for camp the minute registration opens up. I just feel better when things are done. So as the days went by and I still had a blank page and a blinking cursor, I finally threw my arms up and said to Ryan, I got nothing. I have nothing to say. He shouted back from the kitchen, and this is true, Torah draft. It's Passover. I would totally take Moses in the first round. I think he thought he was being funny, and I thought it was brilliant, a Torah draft. My brain happily jumped on that train of thought, and then the train promptly derailed. I think of my train of thought careened off the tracks because even though I'm so proud of the city of Detroit and its record-breaking NFL draft attendance, I am equally and at the same time saddened about what is happening at the U of M Diag. And I just realized how much space it was taking up in my mind. It's at U of M, MSU, Columbia, Harvard, NYU, USC, and more. USC deciding to cancel graduation is devastating. These are the same students that didn't have a high school graduation because of COVID. Now they won't have a college graduation. It's just remarkably sad. And this week, Bela and I were driving home from Seder at Temple, and we had a very open and honest conversation about anti-Semitism. She is used to police presence at Temple, but that night we had a few more police cars than usual. It was not the first time she had asked me why people don't like Jews, but it was the first time she asked me why people hate Jews. She started giving me all the reasons why people should like us. We do mitzvot. We make the world a better place. We don't hurt anyone by being Jewish. How could I not agree with every single point? She was absolutely right. And so I answered her with a sigh and a little sense of defeat. I said to her, I don't know, Bela. I just don't know. How do you explain thousands of years of baseless hatred? I decided to take a different tack. Instead of telling her why people didn't like Jews, I told her what she should be proud of. Hence the sweatshirt. But the conversation descended quickly into one of those typical parent-teen conversations that is interrupted by, I know that, Mom, that's not what I asked you. And she was right, I was shortchanging her. She is a young adult and she's smart, and she wanted to know why. So I told her the truth. There is no real rational reason. People don't like Jews because there are too many of us. She looked at me and said, too many? There are barely any Jews on the planet. Okay, I said, we're disliked because people think we control the media and the banks and higher education. That one, she just looked at me so incredulously as if to say that's the most outrageous thing I've ever heard. I said, okay, people don't like us because we celebrate in our own ways and have our own beliefs. At this point, she seemed absolutely exhausted by the ridiculousness of my answers and just said, we aren't hurting anyone. Why can't we just be left alone? Why does anyone care what we do? And there was a big part of me that was really proud of her. She saw right through these irrational arguments and meaningless justifications. And there was part of me that just felt so exasperated that I was having to have this conversation with my child in America in 2024. To either mend my own heart or just end the conversation, I'm not sure which, to be honest, I returned to the positive and said to her, you have to be proud of who you are. Do not let other people's prejudice take away from how you feel about being Jewish. We are so lucky to have been born Jewish. Throughout Jewish history, no matter who has tried to destroy us, the Jewish people have not turned away from their Judaism. Rather, some have died for its sake, some practice in secret, or some moved to a new place for however long they would be tolerated. Then, once they were in danger there, they moved again. There was a meme going around Instagram for a while that said, every Jew that is alive today is descendant from a Jew in Europe or Russia who said, the vibe is off, let's get on a ship. No matter what the century, no matter the story, you don't hear about people just renouncing their Judaism. Sure, there are always examples of people who deny their faith, but for the most part, for Jews, the answer has been to show how we can be good citizens and be Jews at the same time, that we should not have to choose. It is a really strange and old litmus test. We don't see a contradiction. We could easily be proudly American and proudly Jewish at the same time. But it is not to be, and we are still accused of dual loyalties, that we can't truly fully be loyal to the US or France or Germany and be Jews who long for and support a state of Israel. We were always told we had to make a choice. In the Reform movement, because of this accusation, the original reformers chose our home countries. They argued that they did not want a return to the land of Israel and removed any mention of it from our prayer book. In their minds, this should have solved the problem. No dual loyalties. And perhaps because it did not work, or inversely, it worked so well, the Reform movement felt comfortable enough to change course. And while we don't pray for a return of every Jew to Israel, we very much encourage Aliyah, and we send thousands of teens to Israel every year. The Reform movement still believes we have a place in the diaspora, but without a strong Israel, there cannot be a strong diaspora. We are interdependent. So while as Jews, this is not controversial or conflicting to us at all, it's still to many people who are not Jewish, and they use it as a weapon against us. I'll never forget when our community gathered for a vigil at Adat Shalom in November. There were a lot of TV cameras there. Was anyone else there? I saw a ton of you there. While I have no idea if the people operating the cameras were Jewish, I just kind of assumed that they were not. I thought to myself, what do they think of this huge group of people singing our national anthem, the United States, and also the national anthem of the State of Israel? I was too distraught that night to take the time to actually ask them any of these questions. Also, I was so proud of how our community was coming together. I didn't want to do one thing to take away that feeling of pride that was swelling inside of me. Considering the circumstances our community was living with, I felt like I owed myself that much. At the Passover Seder, we sing B'tzeit Yisrael miMitzrayim, Beit Yaakov me'am lo'ez. Israel left Egypt, the children of Jacob left a strange land. How many times since we have left that land have we left others? How many times have we left because we were Jews? Because we are the descendants of Jacob and Judah? Too many times to count. In that story, we left Mitzrayim, Egypt. In Hebrew, Mitzrayim means narrow spaces. This year, the idea of living in a narrow space is just hitting me hard. I felt like I was squeezing myself through a narrow space to try to explain to my child why this is happening now. And I realize that I'm also trying really, really hard to deny my own fears that America is a narrow space for the Jewish people. I pray I am wrong. I pray this feeling and everything causing it will pass quickly and peacefully. So once the NFL draft is over, I do ask that you do a Jewish one. Draft your friends and family back into the Jewish community. Don't let them say that they don't use or need a congregation. Don't let them say that Jewish education's for their kids. This is truly an all-hands-on-deck situation. Everyone needs to understand that each and every one of us counts. This is no time to sit on the bench and watch from the sidelines. There simply aren't enough of us to do that. Go as many rounds as you need until everyone in your life understands that it is up to each of us to make sure that we only sing B'tzeit Yisrael when we are referring to Passover. We must be loud and proud and brave and strong, just as our ancestors were when they took those first steps into the desert and the unknown. So we're going to sing this beautiful new B'tzeit Yisrael now. Let's sing it as a song of celebration of freedom. Freedom in ancient times, freedom now. and please God forever. Shabbat Shalom.